Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you by BB. There is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about markets. Welcome back, guys. Happy Thursday. We are coming into the end of May. Hard to believe, I gotta say, but as we cross over into a new monthly candle, do we get volatility or do we not? Do we get chop? I guess we'll find out. We will discuss that on today's show. But yeah, I hope everybody is having a great start or really a great week, rather, and ultimately a great end of the month. Let's talk about Bitcoin. Let's talk about equities. But before I can do that, of course, you guys know me as Tommy. I'm also Snorlax. I'm joined by Tucker, Max, and of course, Chef Jackus. Welcome to you as well. Before we can get, I think, more formally acquainted with the current pricing of the market, some lower time frame volatility, but really I would say just kind of in general, looking at Bitcoin this week, it's a bunch of chop. I'm going to ask if you guys can smash, slam, destroy, annihilate, eviscerate. Added that word yesterday to our lineup of adjectives and verbs to try and get you to hit the like button. But yeah, we're always very appreciative when you guys do that ultimately, and you do help us grow our channel. I remember back in the day, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, we were getting 400 or 500 likes on these videos, guys. I remember those days. It takes a team effort to achieve this, and we're going to do our part. We're showing up here every day, and we're also going to cook you guys some fire alpha on today's show. But yeah, that's enough yap. Let's talk about our assets, right? I mean, Bitcoin this week is mostly chopping, right? Is it kind of teeing up a more volatile move? Probably. Do we get that before the end of the month of May? Do we have to wait until the beginning of June to see that volatility? I guess we'll see, right? I think we have some interesting positional influences across the board, right? Starting with something that we've talked about before on this show. I mean, Bitcoin options point towards higher price time. Equity OPEX in June can be a little bit. Oh, don't tell me I'm rugging.
Just
a little.
You're okay now. You're okay.
Rest assured, though, guys, there will not be many more shows where I don't have Starlink, so you can't make fun of me for my internet that much longer. Enjoy it while it lasts. It's a running joke, right? But yeah, I at the same time, obviously, crypto options point towards a very bullish summer. Equity OPEX can be a little bit sticky. As a whole, I mean, equities don't really seem to be blinking much, right? I mean, we had NVIDIA earnings yesterday. NVIDIA is up 5%. Can it get follow through? Obviously, the Qs have, I mean, realistically, equity indices have just been kind of floating up in a low volatility environment. It's highly likely that regime continues into the summer, assuming that nothing changes here over the next few weeks. But yeah, I mean, that points to me towards a favorable crypto summer, whether it wants to happen in June, whether that wants to happen in July. I guess we'll just have to see. But yeah, right now we're getting some chop around that famous 110K level. Do we see some pullback, guys, before we see higher pricing? If we do, how deep is a pullback? Maybe we don't get one at all, right? Maybe we just punch through the highs. They've tried to hunt James Wynn a few times here over the last few days, especially this morning. I think his liquidation price is in the low 106s right now. At one point, it was as high as like 107.2 last night. And then I think he was forced to reduce. But yeah, now how are we doing, guys? What are we seeing in the markets? What are our thoughts, obviously, on price action today that's a little bit choppy, but I do think that we're setting the stage for a much more volatile June.
Well, we need to pump today because I can't take it anymore. So I need at least 125K Bitcoin by the time market check is over, or I'm going to lose my mind. So that's basically where I'm at, is not expecting or forecasting higher prices. I'm actually demanding higher prices. So I'm taking a slightly different approach today. I do think that the market looks pretty good here. I genuinely can't believe that James has not gotten liquidated yet. They've come within like 100 points 2 times of liquidating his entire account. I don't know what's going on there, man. Something is just, it's like almost fishy. Something is weird. It's kind of an
The
annoying.
secret ingredient is crime.
You think it's crime? It could be crime. It's actually
It's
kind of
either
an
max
annoying.
stupidity or max crime. Nothing in between.
What's the difference? But it's actually kind of an annoying overhang on the market. Like I hate that the entire market is tuned into like one giant, arguably very over leveraged position. But yeah, we'll see what happens, right? I would certainly be uncomfortable holding that position, but maybe that's why he has the amount of money that he does, and I don't. So I guess we'll see. Maybe there's something to it, right? But that position aside, it doesn't really matter. I'm just kind of shocked that they didn't take him out this morning. They got so close. But I think, Tommy, you talked about like the calendar rollover, right? We're coming into the end of May, heading into June. I'm trying not to overcomplicate it, where I look at this and I go, okay, we're in a structural uptrend, high time frame structural uptrend. We're also sitting above a 5-month value area, right? Like if we draw a volume profile going all the way back to like November when we marked up, we're sitting above the value area high after chewing through all of that supply, right? The entire thing. So I'm just not concerned about the structure. Like what we're seeing is bracketing and chop above a very, very significant level. I will say that the level that like I think we could flush to, like if we wanted to get that May to June rollover and like kind of annoyingness, it'd probably be retesting our May point of control. Like if you were to draw another volume profile from May 1st all the way through the present, what's going to inevitably happen is we're going to, like mark up at some point or just continue to be pinned here. As we basically end this month, roll over into the next, we'll inevitably have like the monthly naked point of control here for May be sitting at 104. It wouldn't surprise me to see us, snap down and take that out at all. We don't have to, but I think it's on the table. So that's kind of the level that I feel like we'd move to. I mean, I guess you could maybe include that value area, right? Like we could move down to 102, 103, but I don't know if at this point I see some like omega short end of the uptrend type of move. I could see something like that as we transition into next month, but I don't know if I see too much lower, honestly. Not now. I guess things could develop and change, but right now I don't really see that. But yeah, I mean, we're just bracketing above a very significant level. Every move down, the Bears were right. You shorted the top. Got it. Good game. Got to go. It's like every move up, new highs coming. It's like we're just bracketing. That's it. We've done nothing. We marked up. We're bracketing. So
yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of this. I think that would be really nice.
that'd be beautiful. It'd be beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we see sub 100K, that is going to scare lots of people. Because that 100K mark is psychological.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see that.
And then maybe we get Shine back in the comments.
You could. I mean, there's a pretty big inefficiency, like below that green box, like that. I mean, I guess that is like there's a nice juicy inefficiency there. It's probably like a daily or 2-day FVG. I don't know, something like that. But like that we could fill that in, wick into the like the 0.5 of that imbalance right there. Like that wouldn't shock me. It's certainly not like it shouldn't be viewed as something that's scary. Like it should be viewed as like the opportunity to shove before probably we continue the high time frame uptrend. And I think a lot of people, if that did happen, would be completely unhinged on tilt, just beside themselves, It's like you shouldn't be.
This is like wait, what were you gonna say, Jaggers?
What would shock you, Max? Like what price level in Bitcoin would shock you?
Would shock me would probably be like 93.
93, okay.
Like I think if we got to 93, that would very much so surprise me, given what I'm seeing here. But I still think that, and that's kind of your must hold level for me. That's why I said 93. It's like, I think if we were to lose 90, 93, 94, that to me is kind of your must hold level. You know, it's kind of like your previous range high from like that, like right there, Tucker, that,
You just can't lose like this. You know.
yeah, like I'd be a little concerned below that level, like that high. If you were to draw like horizontal there or something, that feels like a very important level to me. So if we were down there, I'd be feeling a little uneasy. I'd be like, what the heck are we doing back down here? Like
Jackus wants this now.
I mean, it has a decent probability to me. I don't think it would. To me, that wouldn't still be scary. For me, scary price would be like sub 84. I don't think we can go down there anymore. But yeah, generally this market is looking absolutely amazing. But it comes to little different time frames. And I think Q3, Q4 will be the time for crypto to shine. Pun intended.
shine.
Damn, so you think like maybe we kind of round this off? Because this feels like the previous range to me. This feels like, you know, this type of shit. You know, if we did something like that.
Yeah, I mean, right now BTC is still at a decent level for continuation, but it needs to break the current all-time highs for me with force, you know. And if that's the case, then I think we continue straight up pretty much. But I think
we need like 115, man. We need 115 immediately. We're gonna go higher.
I think so. I think we might like be okay with 112 already. 112, and that's an immediate continuation. But yeah, you know, people shouldn't overcomplicate it. Bitcoin's looking really amazing. The drop that we are going to get, if we are going to get, then that would be technical one. I think the fundamentals have never been better for it than they are now.
What I really want to avoid is a 3-month summer range.
I don't think you're getting a range this summer. I really, really don't.
Yes, Tommy. Good.
Tommy, tell me more about that, please.
Yeah,
You'd
please.
be so kind.
I just don't think, I don't really equate our current structure since December to the one that we had in, you know, like half of last year. I just don't think that it's all that comparable. Realistically, like on a higher time frame, you're trying to go increasingly more parabolic, right? You're either doing that or, you know, this is a lower high and you're going to nuke over the next few months, which I don't think is going to happen. I personally think I'm going to keep referencing it. I think the options open interest for June and July point towards higher prices for Bitcoin this summer. I share the opinion that we could very well go into the 90s and tag some of that liquidity. I mean, this is kind of the part where everybody is going to want to lever up into an all-time high breakout, not just with Bitcoin and ETH, but probably with some ultra high beta as well. It's chop before price discovery ultimately, but it can get pretty aggressive. And I think, you know, we probably do have one last shakeout before we actually go into price discovery. But, you know, when we talk about June and July, you know, I think positioning favors higher in a way that, you know, when we look back at the range last year, you knew when the market was going to move up because options were bullish. And if there was no like interest in bidding up Bitcoin, not just options, but also, I think a lot of that is based on like historical volatility. You're going to be buying Bitcoin calls when they're the cheapest. We have a distinctly different footprint right now than we did throughout that range.
That feels similar to me, Tucker, where you're, like there, man.
Yeah.
So Tommy, about this options data. One, I don't trade crypto options. I haven't been awarded that opportunity because I live in the US, and there's really not great options. No pun intended. There's just not very good ease of access. Which makes perfect sense, right? It makes absolute sense. You can gamble all your money away, but you go to the casino, sports betting, but you cannot trade crypto options. But anyways, I digress. Tell me more about the options positioning data and how you expect it to, reflect price. You're talking about June and July being skewed aggressively to higher prices. I mean, what kind of prices are we, if these guys are correct, if the guys that are playing these options with size are correct, and the open interest on certain strike prices acts as a magnet, if these guys are going to be in the money, what price would that equate to for Bitcoin? And in your experience, what are the probabilities that these guys that are sizing into deep out of the money calls are usually correct?
And I mean, in my experience, the probabilities are pretty good that they're right, just because, if it's not going to happen, they're probably not sizing into the options. I mean, there's that whole, I'm sure you could explain kind of the underlying mechanics of it better. There's going to be like some functions of gamma in there. I understand the concept not well enough to be able to like explain it much beyond that. But typically, when we see big players in the market aggressively buying these options like quarterlies, they tend to be pretty actionable. If they're not buying them, it has tended to be a fake pump, which is, again, what I was referencing a few minutes ago. When we talk about the last range that we were in for half of last year, I mean, every time we pumped to range highs, I remember I have like this guy who's super big on options. He would always just be making fun of everybody getting bullish because nobody was buying any options. Therefore, he knew we weren't going to be able to break out. In the same way, when we had that ETH pump last year in May, there was some insider front running of that, but you knew the rally wasn't going to continue past like, what was it, 4K, 4,200, because there just wasn't that much appetite for the options. But as far as like what the positioning is itself for June, I mean, you have 500 million, I mean, like 750 million committed to $120,000 calls for the end of June. You've got 500 million notional committed to 130s. 140s got about, another 450 million. And then, I mean, you even got like $500 million worth of 200K calls for the end of June. So there's, again, substantial call interest for June, and as well as July. I mean, you can pretty much
so you're expecting us to be, whether we get a shakeout into the 90s again or not, it sounds like your bias is so much higher within 60 days, because it's basically June 1st. We're basically starting June. We have a couple days left.
Yes. I mean, I don't think that you're going to get like 200 or 300K in June. Let me be clear about that. But, 120, 130, 140, everything kind of points to me like those should be closing June in the money. Even if it's just a Bitcoin rally.
So we're not even talking end of July. We're talking about June expiration.
Yeah, and I mean, we could see that continue in July. There's not quite as much OI for July as there is June, but I mean, the strikes that people are playing are pretty much just as aggressive. And then you don't see that same interest in August and September until December. And ironically, most of the December OI is very bullish on ETH 6,000 calls.
Really? Okay. Well, it's interesting. I love hearing about that because I don't follow crypto options data closely at all. But if you've been watching it and you're seeing these flows, that is a really interesting additional bit of confluence for sure.
Mhm.
My argument is, isn't there actually a counter interest from the counterparty to not see that, to see those levels being hit by end of June? Because there is always an opposing side of the party. So if most were making money on this, then someone has to be losing them, right? Shouldn't it work like, hey, if most parties have a strike price by end of June on 120, 130K, wouldn't that on the opposite mean that you either have to create a bigger counterparty first for a short side, betting on I don't know, 80K, or you just don't go there by end of June?
I mean, yes, that is definitely possible. For example, there's about 700 million committed to 85,000 puts, right? I mean, there are people taking downside bets as well. But one thing I will say is kind of throughout this cycle, since we began in, what was it, late 2022, you kind of gotten these super high call skews that push price higher. So you'd kind of think, well, I mean, so many people are long. Why does price have to go trade there? And, I've kind of asked myself the same question before, and then price goes and trades there. I think about somewhere or sometime like the SVB crisis, when we were trading back down at, what was it, like 18 or 19K, and seeing some incredibly aggressive calls for Bitcoin come in to reach like 30K, which is so funny to think about now, like a move from 18 or 19K up to 30K. I do think it's kind of like self-reinforcing in a way, where if you are able to break 110K in June, you will likely see a bunch of buying step in and go trade those prices that we just mentioned, right? I mean, that's kind of like what gamma is. I don't think I could explain it better than that, but there's certainly a chance that they don't close in the money. I just think that based on what I've seen so far over the course of this cycle, a lot of those options probably will close in the money, because there's that whole argument about max pain, right? This is the last thing I'll say, is there's always a max pain price where the most amount of people will lose money. And markets, I guess this will tell us what sort of regime we're in for the next 6 months, because markets in strong trends tend to gravitate away from max pain.
I agree that if we were to break 110K, well, maybe 111, 112, but generally that area, then I think we would quickly reprice to 120, and they would be in the money. Or maybe, again, all it takes is basically create a bigger short option strike, at 80K, and that doesn't get hit. And suddenly, you have a much bigger losing party on the other side. And then you can hit 120 by end of June. I could see a scenario, though, in which we kind of drop here to some degree, then go back up. But by end of June, we are not at 120K, and we hit it by July. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think for me, I'm viewing it, June and July should be very bullish for Bitcoin. We should be closing the summer significantly higher than current prices on BTC. I don't know how much altcoin participation there's going to be yet, but at the very least, like I said, the same people are very bullish for ETH into the end of the year.
Well, I said this before, and I'll say it again. Q3, Q4 is a Trump stock market.
Is this Biden's stock market?
Still Biden's stock market.
Still,
I mean, stocks look okay here. Maybe this is a Trump stock market. Nice recovery off the lows. Biden caused the dump.
He
Trump
hasn't said
obviously
it.
caused the
He hasn't
recovery.
said it yet. And I think there is a reason for it.
Oh, so you're looking for him to literally verbalize it. You want him to speak You want him to
He will.
say that
No,
out?
no.
Okay.
You think he
Listen,
will?
his ego is bigger than the moon.
Mhm.
So
The
he
moon in
will
which
say.
we've been to or we haven't been to.
Respect
We
the
have-
rock, Max.
We can respect it. I just don't know if we've been there to actually show respect in person, or we just have to respect it from here. You know,
From here, for
fine.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can respect it. You know,
Max, pull up your chart. I want to see the fusion.
You acting like you don't have the fusion? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Are you acting like you haven't been given? I even posted a new update last night, by the way.
I have it. I just truly don't know how to use it as well as you do, if I'm being honest.
That's real.
You know, it's pretty complex, I will say.
It might
But
be.
I can give it a shot.
See the update? Hit that update button, Tucker. Hit that update.
New James Wynn liquidation is around 106, by the way.
Wait, so
Apparently
he lowered?
He found
lowered?
some more collateral.
Yeah, you know
Well,
where his
we'll-
collateral came from? His Andy Wolf and Ticker Bitcoin bags that he full stack nuked in one clip yesterday. Crazy, man.
So how
I
Go
kind of
ahead.
feel like we won't be able to really trend until he's out of the market.
It's actually annoying me that I completely agree. Like I was telling Tucker that this morning. I was like, it's really driving me crazy. I feel like they're not gonna let him like get out of this thing. Right now there's $15 million of collateral sitting like 1,000 points lower. It's like that.
Yeah.
First of all, the balls on this guy. I can't believe that anybody has the kind of balls to bet that kind of, like, I can't believe it. It's hard for me to even wrap my mind around like 40x leverage with that kind of, with that kind of money. But I want the position saga to be over because I feel like it's genuinely becoming an overhang on the broader market. But
Yeah.
I'm also having a hard time thinking that that's like all his money and he just decided to gamble it all away in a straight line. Like that's
agree.
just too hard for me to imagine. Yeah.
Dude, this
I don't buy it.
man.
Something's off about the whole situation. But, I think if we look back at previous anecdotes, I can remember the hyperliquid whale back in when was it, man? That had the massive Bitcoin long time.
Yeah.
And we danced around it for a while, but eventually we forced him out of the position before we actually got a trending move.
Mm-hmm. Was that back here?
I think so.
I
think he actually had like the right idea about market direction.
It was back here. Huh.
But he did get forced out of the position. And then made it all back on the hype bear drop. Shout out to that guy.
you know how many mediocre traders got bailed out by that hyperliquid airdrop and just made a fortune? So many, bro.
A lot.
So many.
Mac, how do you read this? Like, do you want to see it come back into here, into the band, or no?
You don't necessarily want to see it do that. You just need to hold that level if you want to stay bullish. Because if you get below the fusion trend line, which is the orange cloud, then you're going to start getting red candles. And you can see what happens when you start getting red candles.
Mm-hmm.
So
we don't want to see red candles.
You don't. You've got some wiggle room here, I will tell you. And one thing you can actually do here is you can actually chart and do TA on, on the fusion. I would say maybe go to like the 12-hour, just like get some smaller candles. But you can actually do TA on it, and it works, in my experience, better than doing TA on the price chart because this is like your true multi-time frame trend. You might need to blow up the maybe just make it a little bit bigger.
I mean, is this like a problem?
So it's not a problem because we're not printing divergences. Go back to the all-time high.
Aren't we though?
Nope, those are higher highs with Bitcoin doing higher highs. So look at the all-time or the Look at the December.
marginally
Look at the December highs. Look at the difference between
like
before we
this.
flipped red. Those are divergences. Yeah.
Okay,
See what I'm talking about? Those are early signs of price moving up while buy volume is not supportive of higher prices. So we're not seeing that yet. Also, I would say this: fit the fusion a little better. So like blow it up. Draw a trend line from the low in March on the fusion trend line. Yeah, right there across. Yeah. So, and similarly, go back to November and do the same thing from the low in August.
Like this.
Draw from the low in August. I would maybe tighten it up just a little bit. I mean, you can go to the wick, right? But you can kind of tighten it up. Yeah. So, it's we're coming into a level where it's like we're above the 0 line, which is the thick horizontal in the middle of the screen. We're above the fusion trend line. We are seeing a net cumulative on all time frames, aggregated on all exchanges. And by the way, all altcoins this is not just Bitcoin. We're seeing more buying than selling significantly as an aggregate on all major exchanges, on all large caps. We're not seeing the signs of, distribution yet, which is why I keep saying, like, my system is all guns a-blazing still. Like, we're coming into a level that we need to see hold. We're still looking fine right now. One thing I also want to point out about this, Tucker, is, and I don't know if we've talked about this, but the way that I have the cloud set is similar to a Bollinger Band. Look what happens when the cloud squeezes and starts to pinch. Similar to a Bollinger Band squeeze. That's when a big move is coming. So if you go and you look at when the cloud starts to squeeze and pinch, what happens to price, right? So look at like between February and March, what happened there? See how the cloud pinched? We were below the 0 line.
I was looking at the band. Okay, the whole cloud.
The cloud, yeah, not the fusion trend band.
And then boom, yeah.
Exactly. So in that instance, it was a layup short, because you're looking at volatility incoming. You are deep in the red and you're getting the pinch. And look at what happened in November, by the way.
Yeah.
See what happened in November before we pumped up? We got a pinch. We were bouncing off the fusion trend in the green. So this is where I'm saying we could move a little lower. We have some wiggle room, but I'm telling you, the way that this system works is it gives you signal early. Like, look when it gave you your first buy signal. It's not giving you your buy signal after the move happens. It's going to give you like a week or two notice that, hey, the high time frame trend is shifting. Time to start looking for longs or shorts, So it's leading. It's actually one of very few. It's leading here. So, I mean, even go back, Tucker, go back to the ETF. When Bitcoin got the ETF, look at how it gave you risk off signal into the ETF. See what I mean? It gave you, a week and a half advance notice that, hey, this is a bullshit move, right? And then it gets you back risk on at the perfect time. So we're going to have that advance. And look at the divergence, Tucker, how price was making higher highs while we were not seeing volume supportive of higher prices. We were deep in the red, getting early sell signals, called the bluff on that whole move. So yeah, I mean, we are not seeing the traditional signs of risk off yet. We could, but it's too early for me to say here. I think it looks like we still have volume that is supportive of higher prices. So, yeah, I mean, we're looking fine for now, right? And we have a little wiggle room, which is why I think we could go down a little bit here. But if Bitcoin were to drop into like, 90K, you're going to start seeing some risk off signals flashing here, which means it's time to start looking to go risk off. Yeah. Which we haven't. Like, and here even yeah.
Check the comment. Maybe you want to address that.
Oh, so this one is not directly on BB Terminal. This is we talk about it here publicly because We love you guys, and we're you know, we're trying to provide value and guidance however we can. This is a proprietary system that we use internally for our fund. We built this thing from scratch. It's taken a long time to do. There's earlier versions of this script that operate on very similar principles that give tremendous signal, but this is part of our fund strategy. We do have an option if you it's not going to ever be commercialized. Let me put it that way. There is a contact form somewhere on our website. You can do the due diligence and figure out where that is. You know, it's really more for meeting people and networking and meeting other, you know, serious investors, where we allow people to lease it, but it would be a very particular type of individual, either like a high net worth individual who's a very serious trader, or it would be another like fund that wants to try to implement some strategies off of it. And we would meet with that person and decide whether it's a good fit to, you know, allow the opportunity to maybe incorporate this in their strategies. But it's not commercialized. You know, there is somebody who has recently, you know, we met with them, and they're technically taking it for a little ride right now, but it's not a plug and play. This is just, I'm happy to talk about it here and we can, you know, use it, but it's not something that's going to be commercialized. It's something that we use in-house here. But yeah, and then Tucker, go back to like but yeah, you get two versions of this through the terminal. It's not like this. This is like the institutional version. This is like if you're an ultra high net worth individual or you're a professional money manager. Yeah, Tucker, show him Pepe. He said, does it work on Pepe and all? Show him Pepe. It actually does work tremendously well on Pepe. So you can see where it went risk off around the highs, risk on at the lows. It works tremendously well on everything. So yeah, again, it's a, you know, in my view, I don't say this lightly. I think it's a generational system, and you know, it's not going to be commercialized. It's something that we use internally. But yeah, I mean, if there is an opportunity to partner in a limited basis, if you know, if you're interested. But again, it's not for everybody, which is why it's why you can't just go and like buy this. We're not interested in doing that. We'd have to set up a meeting and talk about it, kind of thing. But yeah, anyways, you know, we'll continue to use it on the show. I guess if you were interested in it, you could figure out where to find it on our website and fill out a form or something. Maybe we could work something out. But it's you know, it's a pretty unique system for sure. So I mean, and actually one of my favorite examples is like, Tucker, if you look back at go back to like early bull market in like late 2023, throw up the fusion on there if you would. This is what I'm talking about, where it's going to give you that advance notice before major distribution happens. So like, I mean, you could see how it operated last cycle too, but like, look at the chop, like right in there, like those two major. Yeah, exactly. See what I mean? Where if we are going to distribute here, you're going to see those signs early on. You're going to get some advance notice. And then even go back to last cycle, Tucker, like scroll way back. Look at like the sell off from the all-time high last cycle. You know, you can see risk on, early risk on signal coming out of the summer range low, risk off before the Pico top at the high, you know, that called the 69K top perfectly. And then scroll to the right a little bit, you can see when the shoulder, you know, when we hit that shoulder, it got you short at 43, 44, all the way down to sub 20. Not a single false signal the entire time. So, you know, I trust the system. I've back tested it extensively on multiple tickers. And you know, it's not something that I'm going to be fading. Let's put it, I trust it more than my own judgment. It's kind of an embodiment of like all of my strategies over the years. But yeah, it's we're not quite at that high time frame trend shift point yet. And if we are going to be, we're going to get some notice, you know. But yeah, anyways, we don't have to spend too much more time talking about it. But that's kind of where I'm basing a lot of my high time frame analysis off of, is the fact that we are showing signs of, like we're stuck at a stubborn region. There's certainly some supply around that 110 area, but I think it's a little premature to, be going like high time frame risk off here. I think you got to give it a chance. If we are going to go risk off, we're going to get some notice. It might be a little bit lower than here, or maybe we see divergences into the high, but I think this is where you kind of sink your feet in and say, I'm going to give it a chance for continuation, because we're not getting that risk off, like true risk off signal yet. But yeah, I mean, I trust we used it in our fund to aggressively position and reallocate in around the lows when we got those early buy signals, and we're still riding this wave. So all systems a go, right? For right now. But yeah, it's like thank you for the compliments in the chat. I see. Yeah, we put a lot of work into it. And I mean, it's kind of like I would feel naked trading without it, right? It doesn't mean you can't get little pullbacks and things, but it's for high time frame positioning. You're not gonna end up on the wrong side of a major move. You know what I mean? You're not gonna end up completely like caught with your pants down type of thing. Fusion versus Jack is who will win. I don't think it's an either or, right? Like it could be a situation of both, where like the Fusion says we could go a little bit lower here. I think where we would be like more largely invalidated would be like I don't think the Fusion would remain fully risk on. The Fusion system would be fully risk on if we were to go sub 90, right? Where then I think we would probably start getting some like mid time frame risk off signals, some red candles printing. And it's always possible we could do that and then get a bullish reclaim and it flips right back to risk on. There's plenty of examples of that. So yeah, I mean, it's not about like a who's right, who's wrong thing. It's like we could go risk off on this system and it would give us some notice and we would probably nuke and we would get some signal along the way that basically indicates we're probably going sub 90. All I'm saying is, as of right now, it feels premature for me to prospect that move, given that the system is still fully risk on and we're bleeding into an important level, which we could always break, but we're not seeing it yet. So I might come on here in a week and be like, we are seeing that now. The system has gone risk off and we can talk about that. But for me, it's just the wind is at my back. It's still bullish. I trust it more than my own judgment, but I know that anything is possible. So if it flips to risk off, we'll have some notice in advance and we can prepare for it. But right now, I'm not seeing it quite yet. It doesn't mean it won't come, but I'm not seeing it yet. And no, 88298. I certainly do not hate you or anybody watching the show. I love the diverse opinions. That's the beautiful part about trading, where a lot of people, they take it personally, where it's like, oh, someone thinks something different than me, I should hate them and like let's be aggressive and fight. And it's like, no, like I don't care if somebody thinks we're going lower or like higher. It doesn't make any difference to me whatsoever. Like zero. I actually love hearing those other opinions. Like it gets you thinking, right? It gets you thinking. So yeah, I mean, I could very much so see like we were talking earlier in the show, like I could see 103. There's a daily naked point of control there. The May monthly point of control is somewhere around that region. Also, we also have a 30-day rolling VWAP around that level. Here, I can pull my chart up. I think Tucker had to step away for a minute. Let's make sure I'm up there. Yeah, so like I'm looking at this and I'll pull up. This is like the 2-hour time frame. I could see very much so like this point of control getting taken out, which is like 102.9, 103, something like that. That's not off the table to me at all. Fusion system would likely still be in the green. Here, this is what I meant to do. Monthly. We've got the May monthly point of control down here around that level as well. So it's like this would not surprise me at all. And my system would very much so still be in a risk on position, high time frame, right? High time frame. It would still very much so be in a risk on position around that level. As long as we're in this yellow cloud, we're fine. So we could go down here and get a little mini puke and still be high time frame risk on, which is what I care about from a positioning standpoint. It doesn't make any difference to me whether we go down here before higher. For me, it's just hard to see a situation in which, as of right now, we would do something like this. I think this would probably give us some very, short term, maybe scary risk off signals. Would basically be like, here, let me actually put Heiken-Ashi candles on and smooth out the data just a little bit. So we're clearly in a high time frame uptrend, right? We're clearly in a high time frame uptrend. Let's let the system load here. Trading view's a little slow this morning. Let's try to get it to reload here. Taking forever to load. Okay. So just looking really simply, right? Like we went risk on here. This was a buy the whole way. We are in a structured uptrend right here. And as long as we don't really lose that low, I mean, you could even sweep it a little bit, but like I wouldn't want to see that low get like, hammered or whatever. We're still fine. So like we could see a scenario in which we come all the way down into here, ish. It doesn't, we don't need to be too particular about it. And as long as we're above the fusion trend line, which is the orange, and also the zero line, this is a bullish retest to me right in here. This is a bullish retest. And if we did something different like this, and we drop down into here, then from a very simple TA standpoint, I view this as a stubborn supply region, right? Which then we're going to have to battle again, which we could. We'd probably see this, the fusion trend, which dictates, bullish, bearish, or caution. Green is go, yellow's caution, red is, risk off, stop sign. Then what we'd probably see is the following. We'd probably see this trend down, get stuck around the zero line. We'd go temporarily risk off for Bitcoin. You probably see this kind of chop up in here in early June, mid-June. And we'd start to see some red candles printing below 102, 103, 104. Now, that doesn't mean you can't go higher, right? What it means is that in order to be confirmed back bullish, we would need to see a structural reclaim then of, our trend line, right? So we could go risk off into here and then right back risk on here if we get a reclaim. Like there's so many possibilities, but the point in me showing you this is it's like you don't know how high the market's going to go when it's bullish. You don't know how bearish it's going to be when you go risk off. The point of this system is to keep you on the right side of the big moves, right? That's it. It's to keep you on the right side of the big moves where it might not nail the top perfectly. It might not nail the bottom perfectly. It's going to get very close, but the system is still fully risk on here. And I actually think we are probably going to bleed down a little bit more. So we can actually modify this to show, this is a standard deviation band multiplier. So I have these set at the top one is +3, the bottom one's -3. What we can do here is put on +1, -1, +2, -2, +3, -3. You can see very clearly right here, we were grinding, holding the +1 standard deviation band on the fusion trend. We rejected from the underside. We're bleeding down right here. We could very much so come and touch like, the middle line here. Let me turn the actual kind of equilibrium line on here. Oh, actually, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to hide the middle VWAP. So we could very much so kind of bleed back into do something like this, which would be a bullish retest of, this was the perfect entry, which was retesting your actual VWAP of your fusion trend, right? So I'm expecting this. This is very much so on the table for me. But it's simply too early for me to fade the system. You will typically get some advance notice, like, this would be bearish, right? When you're down in here, dipping from green into red, you're going to get that early risk off. Hey, trend might be ending. Then you officially go risk off. And similarly in November, we had a very similar bullish retest, which needed to hold where it did. Right here, the band's pinched. We're getting a big move coming. We held right here at our VWAP, which is exactly where we needed to. And then we moved higher, right? So we might just be doing a repeat of that, which would indicate, hey, maybe we do go a little bit lower. We bleed into the VWAP, hold it, which maybe sends price down a little bit, and then we move up. But it's too early for me to go high time frame risk off. I know locally, looking at the structure, certainly. But yeah, it's the system is still full risk on. It got us fully risk on down here at the lows, and it's not risk off yet. I'm not gonna I back tested this on 15 years worth of Bitcoin price history, and it's pretty impeccable. So anyways,
Great cook session, Max.
Cook.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you, boys. And it's not just Bitcoin, right? Like we can look at it on something like ETH as well. So let's do this. Let's reset the default settings and let's move over to ETH, right? ETH is still, looking at multiple majors here. You can see very, very clearly here that ETH has been, ETH is like, you can see the signal, right? Risk off, risk on, risk off, risk on. We're so deep in the green on ETH. We're above the zero line in the fusion trend. ETH could, in theory, bleed all the way down into here. And, you get some pullback like this, maybe take the low out, right? Something like this. And the high time frame system could still be fully risk on. We might be doing something like this. Wouldn't be crazy, would it? It'd be a bullish retest. So, looking at multiple tickers, it's like, and then we could look at another major. Let's look at XRP, see how XRP looks. I look at this and I say, look, it gives you advance notice. It got you risk on in XRP into this huge move right here. It told you that this whole move was bullshit and we were actually distributing, right? Gave you the early signal of, hey, be careful up here at the highs. It got you back risk on here at, just over $2. It's still risk on. We're above our zero line. We're in the green. We're above the fusion trend line. I'm not seeing any majors that are showing signs of distribution here. They might be showing signs of like a pause, but actual high time frame trend coming to an end, which is what I care about. Let's look at Doge, right? Another major, right? Look at the signal here. Risk on, risk off, early signal for risk on. We're above the zero line. We're above the fusion trend line. To me, it appears more right now like the early stages of a new uptrend. And if we are going to get a risk off signal, then we can adjust, but I haven't gotten it yet. So it's like, I'm not seeing Bitcoin going risk off. I'm not seeing ETH going risk off. I'm not seeing Doge going risk off. I'm not seeing Pepe going risk off. Then we can move over to equities for some more confluence. Let's look at equities here. NASDAQ futures. Let's let it load. For equities here, you went risk off into the high. You've been risk on since here. We got above the zero line. We're deep in the green. It's, look, you get advance notice. Like, let me show you. Over here, right? When you got this, this whole sell off right here, you're deep in the red, right? You get risk off, then you go risk on. At the highs last cycle, early risk off, catch some nice moves in this, in the downtrend. Look at even like with COVID, when you were in COVID, right? Risk off, flips you back to risk on. Like, you're going to get some advance notice before these bullshit regions. Look at risk off, risk on, risk off, risk on, risk off. It's going to give you some, we're not going to be like caught out of the blue here. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not seeing, equities are not showing me signs of distribution yet. Bitcoin, not yet. Doesn't mean we can't go a little bit lower. We have so much wiggle room because we've moved up so quickly. ETH fine, XRP fine, Doge fine. You know, it's like I'm just in a holding period. Like, you know, we're still bullish for now. So as long as we are bullish for now, I will remain fully risk on. I trust the system more than I trust myself. And you know what I'd be looking for here is I want to see the bands continue to pinch. They're starting to pinch right here. We'll retest the fusion trend. Could go a little bit lower. And then I would hope this resolves to the upside. And if it doesn't, then what we'll see here is a pinch. And we'll see the fusion trend line move below the 0 and our orange band. And then we'll roll over. But we're not there yet. So I just remain long for now. Fartcoin, actually, I think I just got a risk off signal on Fartcoin. We can, it's temporary, right? It can easily flip back to risk on at any point.
Sol memes just don't look as good as ETH memes to me here.
So Fartcoin is an interesting one where you can see that, you know, it's been risk on since, you know, 32 cents. And we're getting some yellow candles, which indicate potential caution. And we got to hold this region. We're not quite in the red yet, but we've been risk on and remaining risk on since, you know, 32 cents. And, you know, we're going to have to hold around this region, right? So Fartcoin looks fine for now. So again, it's like, yeah, and we could pull up Andy too. It works on everything.
Max, what if you put in the Fartcoin on Maxi?
I could. I was doing the on-chain one, but here's Andy. Andy risk off here at 260 mil market cap, starts going risk on at 48. We're still risk on, but we're at a critical level, right? Need to hold we got a little wiggle room here. We're above the 0 line and the fusion trend line. Need to hold here. But also something I would look at more with Andy is we care more about what Pepe does because we know the correlation. So it's like, let's actually input the Pepe Volume Fusion Pro, but then put it on Andy, right? So Pepe's Volume Fusion Pro is now printing colored candles for Andy. So as long as Pepe remains risk on, then Andy will remain risk on. Jack, as you were looking at Fartcoin on Mexi.
Yeah.
The perps or spot chart?
Spot.
Yep. Still been risk on since 20. Actually got an earlier buy signal here than on the on-chain one. Still above our fusion trend, still printing green. So it's, you know, for now, it looks fine, right? It's just kind of like everything else where it's just kind of holding for now. Wait, actually, this is not even, I'm sorry, that's the Pepe. That would make more sense. Let's actually look. Yep. So actually Mexi has gone risk off. So we were risk on here. And this is kind of giving you that early bleed down, right? Starts going risk off here. And we are technically a little bit risk off here on Fartcoin. So interesting.
I kind of think this can come down into like a buck, but I really don't want to see it trade below that, or else I think, you know, it's probably the brunt of the upside is probably gone at that point. But I mean, at the same time, it could just mean we have to form a more rounding bottom on some of these Solana-based assets, right? Because Sol doesn't look good. Obviously, yesterday we talked about Sol BTC and Sol ETH not looking too hot. I feel pretty good about those continuing to come down this summer. So it's kind of difficult to you know, think about where Sol memes really factor into this whole equation. I think they'll perform eventually this summer, but you know, if we're talking about like June and July, at the very least, I like holding ETH and Bitcoin more than I like holding Sol. So the meme coins, I think you need probably some sort of like a good narrative for them to outperform ETH memes. I also think that's probably why our next like $1 billion meme coin runner is going to be on ETH rather than Sol.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And looking at Sol here on the Volume Fusion Pro as well, I mean, you can see besides the Trump, the Trump pump right here, which gave you temporary risk on, but then got you out basically at break even, immediately went back to risk off. I mean, you can see we've excluding this region, which was obviously this is when Trump coin launched and Sol went crazy just as an anomaly without the rest of the market. Risk off here, starts giving risk on down in here. On Sol, we still have some wiggle room, right? Fusion trend is down here. We're above the 0 line, So it's like I'm looking at Bitcoin and ETH and Sol and XRP and Doge, and all of them kind of look like, yeah, we're in like a local correction here. But to me, it feels right now more similar to like a bullish retest after reclaiming your 0 line and flipping back into bullish risk on, where I would be expecting, maybe something like this. I don't know where it goes. It doesn't really matter, but just kind of leaning into the system to tell me, going back here, it's like you can see how it works here, even in the bear market. You know what I mean? It's you'll get some notice of a trend shift right in advance to get you in at the right time, to tell you when some scammery is coming, help you stay on the right side of the big moves. So, it's just too early for me to call risk off here because I'm not seeing any of the majors that really are dictating the direction of the overall market going risk off yet. Looking at Tether dominance as well, you can see Tether dominance is still very much so risk off here, which is super bullish for crypto, right? We've been, like here is when we went fully, like we're now in the red, right? We're still below the 0 line, below our fusion trend line. This to me, again, it feels like a bearish retest on Tether dominance coming up and a bullish retest on most majors, but it doesn't mean you can't dip a little more locally. So again, we're just seeing a lot of confluence across the board, showing us that, hey, the trend is still very much so intact. But we're in like a local pause right here, which is, it's not that much of a cause for concern at this point. And if we're going to get a shift, then, then we'll be ahead of it. So,
well, we're coming into a new monthly candle. We know how those tend to behave. I kind of feel like the next few days, I felt like we would get it during the long weekend, honestly, but maybe we just get it around the turn of the new monthly candle, some manipulation. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, end of month can oftentimes bring some scammery, but I think it's too early to be fully risk off, and then just like even drawing it's like we're bracketing above a value area, a 5-month value area. It's like it actually kind of reminds me of like this region over here, where we were just kind of like trying to break out to new highs. And we're just kind of doing something in this bullshit right here, before they launch it. And you don't know how deep the pullback is going to be. But, to all the like triple top, this is the cycle top boys, I say, well, let's wait for a true risk off signal before we start getting, really, really bared up. It's just too early for me. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It's just we're not there yet. So
I think my gut is telling me it's like a good time to go into a coma for a week if you're deep in spot. Maybe like 2 weeks. I don't know. I still think I'm kind of in like both camps almost, where I think we get downside, but I also think the buyback on it will likely be swift. You know, people will want to be, I think I think a lot of people are going to want their summers off through chop and
That's the
grind.
last thing I want. Oh my
Well, it
goodness.
happened last year. So I think, I mean, and the year before that, and the year before that, I think there's plenty of precedent for it. Yeah, I just think you probably get some quick move down around the monthly open, and then I think you move higher into the end of June.
You know, in the 2017 cycle, we were actually pretty risk on for a decent bit of early summer. Like, we look over here, you can see that, you know, we had some decent price action in the summer. We did have a big risk off event here in July, but we did rally in the first part of June, you know, but then we had a big risk off event, which we could always do something like this, you know, but then we'd, you know, hope it kind of continues out into Q3, right? So
I definitely see, and it's not necessarily my bias that this is where we are cyclically, but like just those two consolidations that you're showing on Bitcoin look awfully similar to what we've seen over the last like year or so.
yeah, I would agree with that. I could even put them side by side, and we could look at them and have some fun.
Like I will say this as well, like when you look at charts, big tech charts, for example, that have gone parabolic in the past, we usually see like this is something, maybe Tucker remembers me talking about this last year, but like when you stack two consolidations on top of each other, usually that next leg up is the parabolic leg. I don't know if that's where Bitcoin is necessarily, but I look at the high time frame chart, we've got two massive consolidations stacked on top of each other.
We do. We do indeed. Coming down a little bit here.
There's a certain individual that I think needs to get taken out of this market before we go higher, which is kind of a bummer, but it seems like there is an active hunt going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
Who is that individual? Does he know?
Could be anybody.
What's his liquidation at right now? I'm getting sick of tracking his hyperdash. I'm very excited to watching this account get liquidated so I can delete it from my history.
Me too.
His liquidation is 105.8.
It's so annoying, bro.
I mean, he probably has way more collateral that he could add, man. I'm not even gonna. I'm still convinced, tinfoil hat, that it's like a very sophisticated money laundering scheme.
It's possible, I guess, but I don't know. So yeah, we'll see what happens here. We got some wiggle room, right? We're just bracketing. I wouldn't expect anything before the end of the month, but you know, and then even looking.
Joyful June.
Can put on trader mode too. Get some more low time frame signal. Trading view is so slow for me right now.
It's the same here.
It's slow for you?
Yeah, like sometimes it has these days where it's really slow. I'm always like, is it my internet lagging or it's if it's trading view? But I just had the same max, so I think it's trading view.
Sometimes it just gets crowded. We look fine, guys. I mean, I think I think, and Jackus has said this quite a few times. It's like, I think there's going to be a lot of people through this next phase that kind of get lost. They get lost in the bigger picture. Like they miss the forest through the trees. And I think it's regardless of what happens up in here, whether we pull back a little bit or not, to just still recognize like which direction this market is pointing to. And it feels like it's going to resolve to the upside. I think the big question kind of is like, do we go, risk off in like part of June and get a nice little, flushy poo? Or, do we continue our uptrend higher? And, I mean, we could even, I think I had it on the Binance chart. This was Tommy's fractal, which he never tweeted out, and he told me he would. That's crime. That's bearish crime on Tommy's part, not tweeting this out. But we could just be doing something like this as well. And I think you need to be prepared for both, which is like we're just kind of in like this bullshit walk up into new highs,
Yeah, we could be there.
You need to just prepare for both. I still think it makes sense to have some chips on the table here. Let's put it that way. It's obviously not the same and going to be the same. Certainly, similar. But we're in an uptrend trying to blast off into price discovery, coming out of a terrible Q1. And I think there's a lot of people that were caught off guard by how quick this move happened from, looks like the low was 75 up to here. It's a big move. So, I mean, I think there's a lot more people wanting a big, huge flush to buy. And of course, they still won't even buy it because they'll chicken out. But I still think there's a lot more people that are sidelined and frustrated with this market than there are people that are like overwhelmingly bullish at the highs. I mean, there's definitely a mix, but my own kind of anecdotal observations are more so to the former, which is that people are not prepared for higher. If we get a flush, it's a good opportunity to, try to buy that into what I think is shaping up to be a bullish Q3. And it sounds like Tommy has been observing the options flow and it's supportive of that. The scariest part about this is that Jackus wants a bigger flush than I do, which I hate because he's usually he's right a lot more than he's wrong. Let's put it that way. So it's like you kind of have to view it as a mix of opinions where it's like higher time frame, we're all pretty much aligned. But over the next like 2 to 4 weeks, there's kind of a split decision on like how low a pullback could potentially go. So again, it's kind of going back to the forest through the trees where we're all pretty much aligned that like things are pointing up. But the question mark is, do we flush down a little bit or do we flush down in a scary way? Nobody knows for sure. It's a game of probabilities. But that's why we have a big panel of guys that you can follow and look at their observations and, try to figure out like, where do you fall within that? What are your thoughts? How are you going to position given all of these individual opinions and different types of analysis, right? So kind of split decision on what happens locally, but I think by July, we're all expecting much higher, right?
Indeed.
It is a Bitcoin conference right now, right?
Yeah.
Which is the most bullish thing for ETH BTC.
When does the Bitcoin conference end? Do we know?
I
Probably
think
Sunday.
I think like this weekend is it. Like
Probably June 1st or like right at month end.
Why do we even need a Bitcoin conference, by the way? Like what is there to talk about?
That's a shill convention. I don't know.
Oh God.
Buy my bags.
And now for the gospel with Michael Saylor.
Literally.
What do you guys think about the fact that he isn't willing to publicly publish his reserves of Bitcoin?
I mean, I get why, right? I don't think it's anything on like I don't think it's a crime thing where it's like, does he actually own the Bitcoin? You know, like I don't think it's some Ponzi like that. And I would say that because there's also a lot of like supportive flows that you can tell when Sailor's on the buttons, you know? So I know that Bitcoin is getting bid at certain times, and it's likely a very large US entity doing it, which is Sailor. I think it kind of comes back to like, why would you show your wallet if you don't have to, right? I think a perfect instance of that is like the James Wynn saga that's going on right now. I think trading publicly and purchasing large size publicly only makes it more difficult on you. So why add that extra variable in there where now, let's say they have 10 multi-sig wallets or something. I don't know where they keep it. If you start seeing on like a Friday, 300 million of Bitcoin entering a wallet, like there's very sophisticated predatory traders that will take advantage of that, So I definitely understand why. And I also don't think there's a really strong case at this point for like, oh, he's hiding something. He's not actually buying Bitcoin. It's a Ponzi because we can tell when Sailor's bidding. What do you think about it, Tommy?
I mean, I just thought it was, I knew it would spur some mixed reactions. I'm not the biggest fan of Michael Saylor, so, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like a great question because we're talking about crypto's ethos, somewhat rooted in, I wouldn't call it a lack of transparency, but privacy. Having freedom of finance and privacy, do those things need to be intrinsically intertwined? I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna I don't have super strong opinion about it. I would like if he maybe had some publicly documented. I think Arkham Intelligence actually found most of his wallets, which confirmed that the Bitcoin are there anyway. But that would be my only concern. Like, does he actually have the Bitcoin? Seems like he does. It's not really too much to talk about otherwise.
Yeah.
If he didn't have the Bitcoin, then I think it would be obviously like we're talking about massive fraud. Probably not just by Sailor, but Coinbase too.
I was just thinking him going on like a 5-year total Bitcoin shill and then just like, yeah, I just made it up. Imagine.
Would that be bullish for Bitcoin though? Like if there actually wasn't this guy bidding 500,000 Bitcoin and we're this high, like would we reprice higher by chance?
I have no idea.
I think we would dump like 20K in a single candle.
I don't think it's super likely that there's fraud, honestly.
No, there is not.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's pretty unlikely.
LARPing about owning a few percentage of supply. He's just like CT.
He's just like us. He's just like the rest of the CT. It's just that Bitcoin is his on-chain shitcoin instead of random poop coins.
I mean, you have to imagine that some of these founders definitely would have been on CT back in, the tech bubble. They were on like message board forums. Like Michael Burry probably would have been on CT.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a really funny thought for me. Like there's a 100% chance that these guys who crushed the tech bubble most definitely would have been big into crypto and big on CT.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Burry is on CT pretty much right now, and he's acting as such. So
I don't think he's tweeted in a really long time, though.
No, he's tweeting, or he's using different accounts or something like that.
Yeah, that's probably true.
All right, guys, that takes us into the end of the show. Thanks so much for being here. Definitely consider checking out the links in the description below, guys. We have some really awesome product offerings. Check out the BB terminal, guys. You can use it for free to track your portfolio, and also use our super charts function, which is something you guys are probably familiar with and use. It's got open interest data, funding, whole bunch of custom indicators, stuff that we built at BB. Can only get through the BB terminal, guys. It is absolutely fantastic. So definitely consider checking that out. It also has, I mean, total, like including on-chain indicators, derivatives, data, everything, like 300 plus indicators, guys. It's your all-in-one super website to navigate crypto markets. So definitely consider checking that out before prices go up. It's the best, guys. We spent a lot of time and a lot of money building it out. We would be honored for you guys to check it out. Support BB and also support your own trading journey. Aggregate all of the data and tools that you could ever need or want into one super website, which is bbterminal.com. Guys, check that out. Again, prices are going to be going up soon. So check that out, bbterminal.com. All right, definitely consider checking it out. You hear the tone in my voice. Soon, check it out very soon, sooner rather than later. I assure you, it will be worth your time to check it out sooner rather than later. Price goes up when price goes up. You understand? The price goes up when price goes up. So check that out, guys. You're gonna love it. But yeah, we will be back next week with another episode. Actually, tomorrow for another episode.
It feels like a Friday.
It does.
Yeah.
The price action feels like Friday. It was tricking me. Definitely consider. Yep. You might be feeling threatened in the corner by me, similar to how that girl is feeling very uncomfortable with that guy. But ultimately, it's good advice. Sign up for the damn BB terminal. There's no reason to be spooked. Just try it out. Just try out the terminal. You don't need to be afraid. I'm not going to hurt you. Try out the BB terminal.
Do it now.
You like how he's like holding a beer too. Like he's just clearly like hammered or something, just acting like an idiot. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. Leave us a like before you go. We're going to run a quick commercial for BB Terminal on our way out. We'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Stay safe and take care.
Tired of outdated trading tools, confused charts, dozens of tabs, endless stress? You're not alone. Introducing BB Terminal, your all-in-one command center for crypto trading. Track your portfolio, monitor the markets, stay ahead, all in one place. From chaos to clarity, from struggle to success. BB Terminal,